Alright, 1 month ago I promised animangamant? Oop, I said that right. I get it like manga and cool. He asked me to review it's Astro City Confessions. His comment read as so. He said excellent review. He wanted me to do Astro 3 Volume 3 Confessions, which does Civil War and Secret Invasion better than Marvel did and before Marvel did it, and that is not the main story. Check it out, I think you'll be pleased. So, yeah, that's what I went into this book with. Also, forward note, I haven't read any Astro City before. I did, however, read Secret Invasion, Civil War, and my opinions of those two. Civil War was actually really interesting, except for the very end, and oh my gosh, if they had skipped the village people taking out Captain America in the last issue of Civil War, instead went to the one-shot Confessions, which is actually a much better wrap-up, and one of the best issues to come out of that whole Civil War thing. There's a lot of cool stuff to come out. Some of it was just fun and in the moment with the event, but there's actually some good issues that brought up a lot of stuff. Overall, I feel Civil War was a failed event, though, because what it did was it took something that X-Men has danced around forever, one of the main points of X-Men, and removed X-Men from the equation and put them in the 198, which was some dumb internment camp thing, which could have worked, just it was terrible timing. It was really sad that Marvel was dividing the house, as it were, like that, and I just felt it was lackluster for that. Secret Invasion was a pot of piss, and that's really all I have to say about that. So to the book I am reviewing, this Astro City Confessions, I'm just going to kind of go through a bit of it. If you haven't read it before and you don't want it spoiled, it's been out forever, so you've had your chance. So it starts off with an introduction by Neil Gaiman, which is on the cover. Anyways, yeah, the introduction of itself just kind of sprawled and was talking about all these different little things and didn't really talk about the book, but talked about why superheroes are popular and kind of like this idea of the superhero and what it can represent. And it didn't have that normal, how do I put it? The mysticism and the flair and the magic of storytelling that usually just is dripping whenever Neil Gaiman writes, so So our main character, Brian Kinney, comes into town on a bus, and as soon as he gets off the bus, someone's very nice to him and picks his wallet. Well, pretends to be nice and picks his wallet. That didn't make sense. Okay, and but the twist on that, as opposed to that normal kid coming to the big city thing, is that these religious people that are sitting there trying to push the good word, see this and then get the wallet back to the kid, and it's part of this flair and this idea that Astro City is the city where most of the superheroes live, and this Brian Kinney has been obsessed with superheroes his entire life, and he wants to come here and meet them and be a part of that culture, and that is kind of his in. And so he starts getting some jobs, gets around slowly, is working his way up kind of, and he's a waiter this place that serves to a lot of superheroes, but out of dress, and somebody jumps him and uses him a bit as bait, and the minute he gets the chance, bam, takes the guy out, and this gets a lot of attention. And then the Confessor comes and starts training him, kind of a Batman Robin thing. So then Brian is made the altar boy to the Confessor, and that's a little, I don't know if they wanted that subtext there, but in today's culture it is there, and it's a little, no, it's a lot creepy. And so they go through, but the thing is between the Confessor and Altar Boy, it's not like Batman and Robin where they always meet up and they're like always together. The Confessor will just leave mysteriously, and Altar Boy's like, what the hell? And I don't even get the sense that they train, and eventually they start meeting up to talk about things and whatnot, but it's a very strange relationship between the two. that serves the plot to a certain point, but at the same time, it's just weird. I'm not really sure like how they meet or like how they go about going to solve a crime together. It's a little nebulous. But as it moves forward, and where it starts to tie into what I thought this book was going to be more about, there's a murder up on a side of the town that the Confessor never wants Altar Boy to go to. It's apparently the harsher side of town. I guess like the Hell's Kitchen of Marvel's New York, if you will, which, okay. But the murder takes place, and it's not solved, and people start wondering, you know, when are the heroes going to do something about it, yada yada, and they're saying, we're working on it, but, you know, sometimes things takes time. So then, the mayor starts putting down pressure on the heroes to try to create kind of a registration, and none of the heroes go for it. They either kind of hang their hat, or they kind of start doing it in spite of that, and which is weird in this universe more so than in Marvel, because they're all trying to... There's more of that Paragon DC kind of stance. It's kind of like the reason why people said registration would never work in DC is the heroes are so Paragon, like, they're usually better than the cops, right? So you can't enforce that sort of thing on them. And so it's kind of weird to see some of these heroes go for it, even though what they're doing is now illegal. It seems odd. But I don't know anything about the characters here. It's kind of like a weird amalgamation of characters based on stuff from DC and Marvel and its own thing. And while that's going on, it's really just a backdrop for tension while Altar Boy slowly finds out more about the Confessor, to find out that he's a vampire, and that's part of the reason why he's not willing to go register, because they'd stake him or whatever. So that happens, and then things just slowly move kind of back and forth between that altercation, because the Altar Boy is really weird about it, and even though this guy's a vampire, he like doesn't know how to feel about it, even though the Confessor is clearly doing stuff all the time. The reason he wears a cross apparently on him is to keep enough pain focused so that he won't feed on anyone. Okay. And so then you find out that the mayor and a bunch of other people are trying to take over the world. So the reason they put pressure on the superheroes like that politically is so that they can come in and take over the world, alien style, secret invasion, I guess is the parallel there. And then literally the Confessor makes a big point to out them, and that kills him. And then literally in like 3 pages they're just like, and then the heroes went and saved the world. That's it. Just done. To be fair, those few pages are more like half an issue, but literally an entire war takes place in half an issue. It's all told, not shown. It's all just like, and this happened, the world was at war, and then of course, literally one of the lines is, of course in the end we won, and it's just all back to normal. And then the epilogue is that Altar Boy goes and trains for a few years to become the Confessor, Robin to become Batman, and that's it. And oh, this is just such a thing. Okay, so now more the review, if you will. It's interesting, but literally this has like 3 major things that would be a story its own to talk about, and it's going about all of them. First, there's this Robin Batman parable with the idea of the vampire and all that, and that has like 3 twists in by itself, and is really the focus of this book. It is the focus. It is the story. Which is fine, and that's an interesting story, and I think it would have been a bit better if they did that and played up some of the characterization, maybe threw a few more characters into that mix, maybe have a bit of a vampire cabal. If they had instead of aliens, vampires trying to take over the world for some way, you'd have to twist that a little, but then it would play in and make it more relevant. With it just being aliens, it's just so out of... I mean, it's not out of left field, but it's just so... It just feels so tacked on, and there's no point to in the end. Because the whole idea of this secret cabal of aliens slowly taking over the world through politics and all that, that's not even prologue, epilogue, or anything. It's just kind of there with the mayor of one city is the focus of all that. The mayor of one city, I'm sorry, is not enough for global domination. Hell, it's not even enough for city domination, really. Like, yeah, you could play some influence, but the mayor still has to abide by enough to where you can swing some influence, but not much. It's so lackluster. And then the superhero registration thing as a lead into that is interesting, but again, it seems so backdrop, because these characters are going out to fight crime, obviously, because the story focuses around that dynamic. So they're going to do it and they can't get caught. It puts a little pressure on at one point, but it feels like these characters are having their own story, and they're passing through a much greater story that just seems to be wrapped up within this book. If this was written more like a Marvel event, where this was the da-da-da book, and this was happening as backdrop, and they're dealing with this, and they're dealing with that at the same time, and this story was being fleshed out elsewhere, I'd actually argue that model that I'm not too fond of that Marvel does would make more sense with this. But it doesn't. In the end, the Civil War story is better. It's better told and focuses to that point and deals with the idea of registration, how these people, what it forces them to do, and when it causes a divide between the heroes, for some that are for and against it, that makes it interesting. If you have all the heroes against it, it's society versus their gods, if you will. It plays more like a Kingdom Come story. And then to just throw aliens on top of that, it's so much going on. None of it's well thought out, and frankly, none of it's well delivered. And I will say, the kitsch, the main reason why this book did not resonate well with me is that the main character, Altar Boy, Bryant, whatever, is dry. He's written a lot like Jason was for Robin and Batman back in the day. And it's just... he's hard to read. Like, every time, like, I think I know how he's going to act, he doesn't quite do that, or he's a little too hard-headed, but he's not noble enough, or he is noble enough, and it's just... he's a very awkward character, and it doesn't... I don't know, it doesn't play well. Nobody's funny in this book. Like, no one smiles, like, ever past the first chapter. It's rough, and it's a rough read, honestly. It took a while to go through it. So, sorry. No, some people like out there, and I know Astro City is one of those heralded comics of all time. I don't know why. This sort of thing has been done better elsewhere. If you want to read comics and review in light of themselves, go read Planetary. Though to the point that the ideas of a secret invasion and civil war have been done better before or elsewhere, that is very true. The first one I want to bring up is actually this, the Captain America to Serve and Protect trade. It collects the first chunk of the Mark Waid's run on Captain America. And there's actually a few stories going on here, but there's like two issues that deal with the Skrull idea. So, and the Skrull trying to cause influence and take over and do all this, much like Civil War, just not as focused on confronting the heroes directly. The Skrull creates all this panic, and all these people are worried about a Skrull. Who's a Skrull? Who isn't? What's going on? Who's Captain America? Is Captain America a Skrull? A lot of confusion and mislead and backstabbing, and the interesting part, the real kitcher, the thing that makes it so much more amazing than Civil War, is the fact that it gets a little further. I mean, obviously it's not as developed within the short amount of time that the story happens, but there's only one Skrull. One. And it causes all kinds of confusion just by appearing as someone, everyone assuming that that person is then a Skrull. Not necessarily. If it's a shapeshifter, they keep going. And it's like... I mean, it's kind of like a chameleon story in that sense, but with the galactical conquest sort of deal. And it's a very interesting story, much better told than Secret Invasion. It just goes, and it's a great story. So I would recommend that if you're interested in that kind of story. As far as Civil War, go read like any X-Men from the 90s. Pretty much, they had a whole political angle that they were doing in now, and it was interesting. I don't know if it's quite the same, but whatever. So I'm gonna wrap this video with a couple points of business. Either of these trades sold this one so well, didn't I? It's a little beat up. That's part of the reason it took so long for me to get to this review. It was cheap and whatever. Captain America trade. If anyone is interested in either of these, please let me know. It's basically first come, first serve. I'll need to get some information and I'll just round up on the shipping charge. So, yeah. If you're interested, do that. Also, please like, subscribe, comment, questions, death threats below, and I would like another suggestion if anyone has one on like a trade to read so that I can do a review. Obviously, if I don't like it, I'll let you know, but if I do like it, I'll let you know as well. But it's a good way to mix it up, and that way I'm not always making videos about the same shit. So, there you go. Have an awesome week, and I'll catch you guys later.